So those are toothed whales. What about baleen whales? Well, let's go back to Sunday now in Reykjavik. We had flat, calm seas. It was quite heavily overcast, but that's actually quite a good light for spotting things at sea. So I was pretty optimistic that it was going to be a good trip on Sunday. One of the things you look for when you're searching for whales are feeding frenzies of seabirds at the surface, and our captain spotted several of those and headed over towards them. It might just be that the birds are at a shoal of small fish near the surface, but where the fish go, the cetaceans are likely to follow. But the birds sometimes might also be following a whale like a minke whale, because minkies in particular can be quite messy eaters. I talked about them engulfing food. They engulf a shoal of small fish, and then when they close their mouths, some of the fish sort of spray out the side, and some of the fish can wriggle through between the baleen plates and escape as well. And the seabirds have learned that, so they follow the whale around to benefit from the things that escape from the big mouth of the whale. And sure enough, near those groups of seabirds, we spotted a minke whale, and you can see some of the gulls following it in that photograph there. There's a slightly closer view, and almost by accident, I caught a puffin in the foreground there, and that gives a sense of scale to that photograph. Minkies are true baleen whales. They're the smallest of the group of whales called the rorquals, the largest of which is the blue whale. Minkies, though, are only about a quarter of the length of the blue whale, up to a maximum of 32 feet, which is still pretty impressive. I've always been a bit dismissive about minkies in the past as teeny rorquals, but 32 feet is the length of 2 African elephants, so they're not exactly tiny. And a minke can weigh the equivalent of 1.5 elephants. But you don't see much of a minke whale normally. Typically, all you see is a long back and a fairly narrow, curved dorsal fin. And it might appear at the surface 2 times, maybe 3 times, then it disappears beneath the water to feed, and it can stay below the water for half an hour or more if it's busily feeding. And during that time, it can move some distance, and you can never tell when it's going to pop up next. So it can be a bit frustrating to follow a minke whale on a whale watching trip. But again, what are we seeing? Well, here's the painting of the minke from Shearhigh and Jarrett, and if I add that line to the top diagram, that is the bit that we see. The bit above that blue line is all we ever see of a minke whale. So it's a bit like an iceberg. The majority of the whale is below the water. I think they're very elegant whales, and they're beautifully marked with all sorts of greyish markings along their sides, a creamy white belly. Beautiful, elegant, streamlined shape. And one feature is that characteristic white blob on the flipper, which is a feature you can sometimes see underwater. They're found throughout the North Atlantic and the North Pacific, as far south almost as the equator. But back on the Saturday before last, on our whale watch from Reykjavik, we had a truly spectacular view of a minke that simply hadn't read the rule books of how a minke is supposed to behave. It was quite a small minke, so I wonder if it was a juvenile. And it did seem to spend a lot of its time investigating the whale watchers, particularly the ones that had joined us on the rib. And then it came over to inspect us. And you begin to see some of the pale markings on the animal in that photograph. That's our whale watch boat captain, Leo, photographing the whale. And when the captain comes out to take photographs, you know you're seeing something special. Our whale even swam under the whale watch boat, and it turned on its side as it went under the boat. And I'm really pleased with this sequence of photographs that I was able to get. It's emerging from under the boat. You can see those white blobs on its flipper. There it's coming to the surface. Minkies come to the surface snout first, which is very difficult to capture normally at sea. Bit more head out of the water. Its blowhole showing. and you can maybe make out that there are 2 blowholes there, proving it's a baleen whale. Arching its back, beginning to disappear beneath the surface, more arching, and beginning to slip under the water. A really fantastic sequence of photographs to be able to get, which I think will feature in my talks about minke whales for a very long time to come. So that was kind of a minke superstar that we had on that whale watch from Reykjavik.